I'd never meant to look that long. From my kitchen window, the light in her apartment was always softer than mine, a warm spill against the dusk. Tonight it framed her like an old photograph, bare shoulders, a pale dress, hair pinned up but already falling loose. I caught myself holding my mug too tight, fingers damp from the steam. She was my neighbor for 6 months, maybe more. We'd exchanged nods at the mailbox, a couple of clipped jokes in the stairwell, but nothing that hung in the air. She had that practiced ease of someone who had outgrown small talk. I was the one still stumbling through it. The knock at my door came quiet, 2 short taps, then a pause, like she'd thought about leaving. When I opened it, she stood there with one hand at the nape of her neck, the other clutching a zipper that had stopped halfway down her back. "Sorry," she said, voice low. "I can't reach. Could you?" Her eyes flicked up once, then away again. She didn't need to explain. I nodded too quickly. "Yeah. Sure. Of course." In her apartment, everything smelled faintly of vanilla and rain. The curtains swayed like they were breathing. She stood in front of the mirror, back to me, waiting. The zipper glinted where it had jammed. I hesitated, wiping my palms on my jeans. "It's stuck. Just a little," she murmured. I tried. The air between us thinned. My hands hovered before finding the small tab. Her skin was warm, close enough to fog my thoughts. I eased the zipper down an inch, then another, until the fabric slackened. She let out a breath, quiet, almost a tremor. "Thank you? Any time." The words sounded heavier than I meant. She turned slightly, enough for me to catch her face in the mirror. For a second she met my eyes through the reflection, and it felt like either of us knew what to do next. She was older, yes, but not distant. The lines near her mouth deepened when she tried not to smile. "You're always in that kitchen," she said softly. "Do you ever go out?" I laughed, but it came out uneven. "Sometimes. Not really." She reached for a necklace on the counter, fingers trembling just a little. "Maybe you should." Her tone was casual, but the air wasn't. She handed me the clasp behind her neck without looking back. My fingertips brushed her hair. She smelled like citrus and something warm I couldn't name. When the clasp clicked, she turned fully, leaning against the dresser, eyes darker now. "Thank you," she repeated, slower. I tried to step back but didn't. "You're welcome." Her lips parted, as if she might say something else. The room felt too quiet, except for the soft thud of my heart. And then, a sharp chime from her phone on the dresser. The screen lit up with a message she didn't move to read. She only glanced at it, then at me, still holding that breathe between words. Her phone kept glowing on the dresser, but she didn't move. The message dimmed, then vanished. She drew the curtain shut with one hand, like she could press the outside world away. "I'm sorry," she said after a beat. "I didn't mean to pull you into my mess." I stayed near the doorway, fingers still tingling from the clasp of her necklace. "You didn't. I was just helping." She gave a small, humorless laugh. "That's what everyone says at first." I watched her eyes in the mirror, how they stayed fixed on the zipper instead of me. The gap of years between us suddenly felt wide and unsteady. "It's okay," I said quietly, though I didn't know what I was agreeing to. She turned and crossed her arms, not defensive, just holding herself. "I was married for 20 years, she said. "Moved in here last spring when it ended. I still haven't figured out how to be someone else yet." I tried to think of something better than "I'm sorry." The word stuck. "That must be hard," I managed. Her shoulders lifted once, then dropped. "I keep thinking I'm too old to start over, but I'm not old enough to stop wanting things." She trailed off, biting her lip. I felt my throat tighten. I wanted to tell her I understood, but my own story felt too small. I stopped, then started again. "I was with someone last year." She left when she found out I didn't want to move away for her job. Said I was immature. Maybe she was right. You're 24? She guessed. 25. Her mouth curved but didn't become a smile. That's still young. It doesn't feel like it, I said. We let the silence hang. It wasn't the polite kind from the hallway. It had weight, like a bridge we were both thinking about crossing. I told myself not to read into it, that she was vulnerable and I was just a neighbor. But the memory of her breath when the zipper loosened kept flashing in my mind. She stepped closer, reaching for a wineglass she'd left on the counter. Sometimes I think I only ask for help to prove I'm still visible, she murmured. I hesitated. You don't need to prove that. Her eyes flicked up, searching my face. Don't I? I wanted to look away but couldn't. The age difference, the echo of her marriage, the fact that we barely knew each other, all of it sat like a warning between us. Still, my hand moved before I could stop it, brushing a loose strand of hair from her shoulder. She froze but didn't pull back. The room seemed to tilt, the rain outside louder against the glass. That's better, I said softly, though nothing had changed. She exhaled, a small sound halfway between relief and regret. Stay for a minute? She asked, voice almost a whisper. I stayed, leaning against her counter, palms flat on the cool granite. She poured a splash of wine but didn't drink it. The room smelled like rain and candle wax, sharp with something unsaid. You don't have to stay, she murmured. I know, I said. I didn't move. For a moment we just listened to the storm hitting the windows. Her bare feet shifted against the tile. My heart was a drumbeat against my ribs. You should go before. She started then stopped. Before what? She shook her head, hair coming loose again. It's nothing. I wanted to press, but before I could, a knock sounded at her door. 3 quick raps. My stomach dropped. Her eyes went wide. Don't say anything, she whispered. She set the wineglass down, wiped her hands on her dress, and went to the door. I stayed out of sight in the kitchen, pulse hammering. Hey, a man's voice said when the door opened. You left your umbrella at the club. Figured you'd need it. Her ex. I didn't have to see him to know. Thanks, she said, too bright. I was just about to sleep. A pause. You're not alone, are you? Her fingers tightened around the umbrella. Why would you ask that? No reason. Can I come in? Not tonight, she said softer now. It's late. Another pause. Then his footsteps retreated down the hall. The door clicked shut. I exhaled hard. She turned, leaning back against the door with her eyes closed. I'm sorry, she said. He still has a key. I keep forgetting to change the lock. He thinks if he brings me things, it means something. You don't owe me an explanation, I said, though my voice came out rough. She walked back toward me slowly. This is exactly what I didn't want. What? Someone caught between my mess and my mistakes. It's not like that, I said, even though it already was. She stopped just in front of me. The rain outside cracked louder, like a warning. We can't, she began. I moved without thinking, brushing her wrist where she held the wineglass. We're not, I said. My thumb grazed her pulse. She shivered but didn't step back. Her eyes searched mine like she was trying to find the part of me that knew better. This isn't a game, she whispered. I know. Her lips parted, half breath, half word. We were inches away, and the air between us seemed to spark. My body leaned forward before my mind caught up. A loud clang from the hallway, someone dropping mail into the metal chute. We both jumped, the moment shattered. She turned away, setting the glass down with trembling fingers. You should go, she said again, but softer. I stayed where I was, hands still tingling from where I touched her wrist. Neither of us moved out. It rained all the next day, a steady hiss against the windows. I told myself I'd leave her alone, that last night had been too close already. But by evening I was back at my kitchen window, watching the soft glow of her lamp spill across her living room floor. When she knocked, it wasn't shy anymore. 3 firm taps, no pause. I opened the door before I could think. She stood there without an umbrella, hair damp, dress clinging at the shoulders. "Can we talk?" she asked, voice tight. I stepped aside. She walked straight to the middle of my apartment and turned, arms crossed, like she was holding herself together. "I can't do this," she said. "I thought I could keep it simple. I can't." I shut the door quietly. "What do you mean?" She looked at me then, eyes rimmed red, not from crying but from exhaustion. You're too young. And I'm still untangling everything. He keeps showing up, I keep letting him, and then I drag you into it." "You didn't drag me," I said. "I walked in." She shook her head. "That night with the zipper." She stopped. "I shouldn't have asked you." "You needed help," I said, though my voice cracked. Her hands dropped to her sides. "You don't understand. When I saw you at your window all those nights, I thought maybe I'd feel visible again. Not lonely. I wasn't supposed to." She bit her lip, hard enough to leave a mark. I stepped closer. "Wasn't supposed to what?" Her breath hitched. "Want you," she whispered. The room tilted. My pulse hammered in my ears. I reached for her without thinking but stopped halfway, hand hanging uselessly between us. She took a shaky step back. "Don't. Please." "Why?" "Because if you touch me right now, I won't stop," she said, voice breaking. Silence pressed in, thicker than the rain outside. She wrapped her arms around herself like armor, but her eyes stayed on mine. "You think I haven't been trying to stop?" I said quietly. "You think I haven't been standing at that window every night telling myself to stay away?" Her chin trembled. "You should hate me for this." "I don't." A flash of lightning lit the room for a heartbeat, bright and stark. She flinched, so did I. "I can't be your mistake," she said. "You're not," I said, stepping closer until we were a breath apart. We stood there, staring at each other, the rain hammering like applause on the roof. My hand rose again, trembling, inches from her face. She didn't move this time. The rain finally stopped the next morning. I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her standing there in my apartment, the words she'd said echoing like a warning. I told myself I wouldn't go to her door again. She needed space. I needed it too. But when I opened my phone, a message was already waiting. "We need to talk. Don't come here. Meet me at the café 2 blocks over." My stomach tightened. She had never texted me before. The café was nearly empty, a slow hour between breakfast and lunch. She sat in a corner booth, hair pulled back, sunglasses hiding her eyes even though it was overcast. "You came," she said when I slid into the seat opposite her. "You asked?" I said. She took the glasses off. "There's something I didn't tell you." I felt my pulse pick up. "Okay. That man at my door." She hesitated. "He's not just my ex. We never signed the papers. He's still my husband." The words landed heavy, louder than the hiss of the espresso machine. "I thought." I started, then stopped. "I told myself it was over," she said quickly. "We've been separated for a year. I thought he wouldn't show up anymore. I didn't plan. You don't have to explain," I said, but my voice sounded small. Her fingers tightened around her cup. "Last night he saw something. Not much, but enough. He followed me this morning. He knows your name now." My stomach went cold. "What?" "He thinks you're the reason I left him." Her voice cracked. "He's wrong, but it doesn't matter. He's angry. He wants to hurt someone. I leaned back, trying to breathe. So what do we do? I'm moving out, she said. Today. I've already called a truck. The room seemed to tilt. You're just leaving? It's the only way to make him stop. What about? I broke off, realizing I didn't know what we were. What about us? She stared at her coffee, not me. There isn't an us. There can't be. Not now. A hot, confused ache spread in my chest. You don't mean that. She looked up, eyes bright with tears she wasn't letting fall. I do. I reached across the table before I could stop myself, fingers brushing hers. She didn't pull away. For a second her grip tightened, desperate, then she released me. I'll send you my new number when it's safe, she said, voice shaking. But you can't come to my apartment again. The bell over the cafe door jingled. I glanced up and saw a man standing just inside, raincoat dripping, eyes scanning the room. Her husband. She went pale. Don't look at him, she whispered. Just don't. The cafe had turned silent in my head, the clatter of cups dulled to a low hum. Her husband stood near the door, dripping rainwater, scanning faces. She gripped her cup so hard it trembled against the saucer. I can handle this, she whispered. Just stay seated. I shook my head. No. He spotted her, his expression tightening. He crossed the floor with deliberate steps. So this is him, he said. His voice wasn't loud, but the weight of it carried. This is the boy? I started to speak, but she put a hand on my arm under the table, firm but shaking. Don't. He looked at me, eyes sharp. You think you're a man because she's lonely? Because she's weak? Something in me broke. I pushed my chair back, slow, trying to keep my voice steady. She's not weak. His mouth twitched like a smirk, but she stood before he could answer. Stop, she said, louder than I'd ever heard. Stop it. Both of you. The whole cafe turned to watch. She turned to him, shoulders squared, but her voice trembled. This isn't about him. This is about us being over. About you not letting go. You're still my wife, he said. No, she said. I'm not. Not in any way that matters. Not anymore. The words hung between them. He stared, stunned, then scoffed, but it sounded hollow. You'll regret this. Maybe, she said. But I won't be afraid. He looked at me once more, something unreadable in his face, then turned and left without another word. The bell over the door jingled softly, anticlimactic after the storm inside. She sat down slowly, burying her face in her hands. Her shoulders shook once, twice. I reached across the table and covered her hands with mine. I didn't want you caught in this, she murmured through her fingers. You didn't ask for it. I didn't want to be caught, I said quietly. But I'm here. She lowered her hands, eyes rimmed red but steady now. You shouldn't be. I know, I said. But I am. Her lips parted, then closed again. We just sat there, palms pressed together across the table, as the cafe's noise returned, soft and ordinary. Outside the window the clouds were breaking, a thin band of sunlight cut across the wet pavement. I don't know where I'm going to live, she said, almost to herself. Then start with coffee, I said. Start with here. She gave a small, broken laugh. You're not making this easy. It's not supposed to be easy, I said. We didn't kiss. We didn't promise anything. We just held each other's gaze across the small table, everything raw and unhidden at last. And for a moment it felt like the world had gone very still, waiting to see which way we'd go. 2 weeks passed. The moving truck came and went, her curtains vanished from the window across from mine. For the first few nights I kept looking out anyway, expecting the soft glow of her lamp, the shadow of her shoulders moving through the room. I told myself that was it, a quiet ending, the way most things fade. But one morning, just before dawn, my phone lit up. I'm at the park across from the café. Can you come? The grass was still wet when I found her. She sat on a bench under a huge plane tree, a paper cup between her hands. She looked tired but lighter, hair tucked into a hood. I didn't think you'd come, she said. I almost didn't, I admitted. She gave a small smile. That café, it felt like a line I couldn't uncross. After you left, I told him I was done. Signed the papers. I'm free now, but also a mess. I sat beside her, leaving a careful inch between us. Everyone's a mess, I said quietly. I've spent months trying to feel visible again, she said, staring at the wet grass. And then you were just there. Kind. Not expecting anything. I didn't plan for that. I picked at the edge of the bench with my thumb. I didn't plan for you either. She let out a breath that sounded like it had been waiting a long time. Part of me thinks we should walk away now. Clean break. No complications. Part of me too, I said. We sat like that, two imperfect people under a gray sky, listening to a bus sigh to a stop on the street nearby. She set her coffee down and rubbed her palms together. But another part of me. She trailed off, then looked at me fully. I met her eyes. Yeah, I said. I'm scared, she whispered. I am too. She reached over, slow enough for me to pull away if I wanted. Her fingers found mine cool from the air. I didn't move. This isn't a movie, she said softly. No guarantees. I know, I said. But we're here. The sky began to brighten, a thin stripe of light breaking through the clouds. For the first time in weeks she smiled, small but real. We sat there holding hands as the city woke up around us, not a perfect ending, but a beginning shaped by the kind of truth we hadn't been able to say before. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?